Story time with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely. Won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing story time with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely. Won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing.
Good morning and welcome to Story Time. Thank you for joining me. Happy Thursday wherever you are today, and I hope that it is going well. If you're just starting like me, I hope that you're ready for a beautiful day and hopefully it goes smoothly. Thank you so much for joining in today. We have a wonderful book to read together and of course a wonderful guest joining us today. It's been a long time since we've had a guest on Story Time, and so I am excited for this one. I'm excited to be read to as well. So please stick around and join in. Remember, we're supposed to have read Taking Turns last week, but we're bringing it back today better with the author right here joining us today, Marianne BLACKSTONE Tabner. Good morning to you and welcome. Please do let me know where you're joining in from and who is joining in with you. And of course, if you're joining us for the recordings later on, please let me know where you're joining us from. Leave the comments below so that I can say hi to you later on. I hope that you are having a wonderful time, a wonderful Thursday. If it's afternoon, late afternoon where you are, I hope you're having a beautiful day. Thank you so much for joining in today. And if it's morning, I hope you're having a wonderful breakfast and of course ready to enjoy a good story together. And as always, please remember, let this not be the only book that you read today. Let us keep looking out there, dive into all the different worlds that books provide us. Good morning to you and welcome to Story Time. I will be introducing our guest very shortly, but for now let us see who else is joining in Story Time today and ready to enjoy this wonderful book indeed. Taking Turns, a book with a lesson for us. Good morning to you, Abraham. How are you doing out in San Leandro? And of course, Terry Kasweka, how are you today? Thank you so much for joining in Story Time. Good morning to you. Yes, welcome out here in Oakland. Like I was talking about yesterday, that building is there with a little bit of sun catching it just right. So one of these days I will take a picture so I can show you all. A beautiful sight indeed. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us out in San Leandro. A little bit gray, the sun peeking out a little bit. How is it where you are? Thank you so much for joining in today. Who else is with us today? Good morning to you, Sarah and Nathan out in Illinois, and you're saying bright Illinois today. Happy last day of September indeed. How time is flying. Thank you so much for joining in. And of course, good morning to you, Amanda West, as well. Thank you so much for joining us out in Illinois. Good morning to you. Thank you for being here. Out in Long Beach, California, good morning to you, Clay, Rocco, and Chriselle, and Rocky. Always a pleasure to have you join us, Rocky. Thank you so much for joining in. Yes, the entire family reading together. Beautiful indeed. I love it. Thank you so much for joining in today. I hope you're well. Rocco, I hope school is going well. Great to see everybody here. Thank you for joining us on Story Time. Good morning to you. Yes, a big Hug for you indeed, Rocky. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to Story Time, and I hope everybody else at home is doing great. Good morning to you, Pamela Courtney, out in Nakitosh, Louisiana. And it's a beautiful weather. I love that you're having beautiful weather out there. Thank you so much for joining in. Oh, I am excited whenever you join us. Thank you so much for being here. Yes, and a special guest that will be joining us very shortly. Braylon and Chad, not forgetting you. How are you doing today? Thank you for being here on Story Time. Welcome, welcome. Good morning to you. Pamela Courtney one more time, Braylon and Chad. And I cannot help but think of Kavaya, of course, when you're joining in, sending her all the love too. Thank you so much for joining in. And at this point, I am going to introduce our guest for today. Please help me in welcoming today Marianne Blackstone Tabner. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you. Thank you so much for having me, Mr. LaMotta.
I am glad you could join us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a beautiful day here in San Diego. We can't complain.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm glad you're having a wonderful day out there. And you're the first guest to join us at 7 in the morning.
Yay, I love this hour.
Are you a morning person?
I am a morning person.
Oh, nice. Well, yeah. No, I'm glad, and I know that like you have this book that you'll be reading with us today, Taking Turns. Just quickly, like, where did the idea come from, or why Taking Turns?
Great question. And you're going to laugh when I tell you this, but this story came to me driving down the 5 one day in traffic. And I went home and immediately had to write it. But I think I just really wanted to get something out to the universe about sharing and kindness. It came out in the fall of the pandemic in 2020 during the presidential elections. And I just thought the timing was so impeccable with all that was going on around us that I wanted something about sharing and kindness. And I love things around the universe and the planets, and I'm a real science nature buff. That's my favorite.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm ready to enjoy the book that you're reading to us today, and I'm sure all the kids out there and everybody joining in are waiting. So we'll be back for more conversation afterwards. So right now, all yours.
Thank you so much. And just to let everyone know, the book is available in English and in Spanish. You can certainly go to my website if you want to purchase the book. But let's start with the English one. Taking Turns. So a little about the illustrator. This is written by me, Marianne Blackstone Tabner, and the illustrator is GAIL M. Nelson. She lives in Colorado, and she does amazing artwork. This book is completely done in watercolors, which really I thought was amazing. This book, when you open up to the first page, there's a dedication page and a copyright page. And the book is dedicated to my granddaughter, Kira Isabella. And it says, "For my granddaughter, Kira, love you to the moon and back. She is my inspiration for writing. Moon beams all night, reflecting sun's light. Sun shines brightly all day. Sun and moon have been together for a lifetime. Moon plays with the stars, making them giggle and wiggle. Moon makes soft shadows below. Village is aglow." I just love this water scene. Moon reflecting light on the ocean. Owls screech, shorebirds peep, moon is in charge. Moon illuminates night's darkness. You can see the shorebirds on the bottom of the page. Peep, peep, peep. And I love this illustration of her owl. Look at the detail in the head of that owl. I think it's amazing. Sun creates light. Rise and shine, village comes alive. Sun is so happy. Children hurry to school, people go to work, animals and children play, and flowers grow and bloom. I'm going to let you in on an author secret on this page. There's a dog here that happens to be Kira Isabella's dog, my granddaughter, and the dog's name is Bonnie. And there's going to be another dog I want you to watch for in this story. That's the illustrator's dog. And I'll tell you all about that when we get to that page. Until one evening, Moon stays out all night and all day. Moon wants all the attention. Moon is showing Sun who is wiser. The next morning, Sun pushed so hard to rise. Sun pushed and pushed and could not rise. Moon refused to share the sky. Look at poor Sun. Do you think Sun looks happy in this picture? It stayed dark all day and night. Village didn't go to school. Village didn't go to work. Flowers never bloomed. Village was confused. Sun missed Village. Sun began to cry and cry. Sun's tears created a big storm. Clouds turned gray and dark. The ocean became bigger and bigger. Look at poor Sun. Sun looks very unhappy here. Thunder rumbled in with lightning and said, "You are equally special. Sometimes we need Moon and sometimes we need Sun. How can you work this out?" Sun said, "Moon, Village needs you to calm the ocean tides, reflect my light in the darkness for Village to sleep. Village loves watching you and the stars play at night." Moon smiled with pride. Moon was so happy to hear that. Village loves watching Moon. Sun said, "We are both special, Moon. Can we take turns like we always have?" The next day, Sun took its turn. Rise and shine. Village children laughed and played with the animals. Flowers danced and bloomed. Village was so happy to see Sun again. If you look closely at this photo, at this picture, there is a golden retriever, and this is the illustrator's dog, and the dog's name is Luna. So we had to put Luna in the book because Luna means moon in Spanish. Then Moon took its turn. Beaming like a flashlight high in the sky, Village watched Moon play with the stars again. Village was so happy, children skipped in the streets and played in Moon's shadow. Owls screeched, shorebirds peeped, Moon is at peace, Village is asleep. The end. In the back of the book, there's some fabulous back matter where Earth interviews Sun and Moon about who really takes turns, and it has some really great science facts. You can also get a free downloadable teacher guide on my website, which is MarianneBlackstoneTabner.com, and it follows all the core educational standards and the next generation science standards for any parents that are homeschooling or just want activities for kids to do, and for teachers. Thank you for letting me share this.
Oh, thank you so much, Marianne. It's always so good to listen to stories, and I get a chance to be read to today. Yay!
Yay, we did it.
Well, I know that you've mentioned kindness as one of the things that you're trying to teach with this book. Like, what are some others, or is kindness the main? Or like, did it come up from the get-go when you're creating the book, or was it something that came later on?
I think the sharing, the kindness is really what came out right away in the story. It wasn't intentional. It just literally came out on paper. It was one of those sort of like I was channeled to write this, which sounds really strange. That's not how most of my writing goes. But for some reason, that's how this story came out. Of course, it's been edited a number of times, but yeah, I think the message overall is that I also wanted to tie in something educational because I have a special ed background, a teacher like yourself, and wanted kids to have some sort of science piece of it because I love science and nature.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, it's about sharing and kindness and how to take turns. And I think that's hard for some children.
Yeah. Oh, that's so important. It is, because I see it too. Initially with the, I have the younger kids, both in first and second, and I thought this was something that like we need to work on at that age group. But also in fourth now, I still see a little bit of that sometimes. It's like, oh, we have to do turns. We have to share.
There's also a little bit about bullies in there because Moon is sort of bullyish at some point.
Yeah.
And sort of how do they resolve that difference? And even though it didn't go through a lot of conflict, which maybe I go back on this and think maybe I should have added more conflict. Sun, of course, comes to the rescue, which I think Sun sort of is the rescuer anyway, right? We love Sun. We love light.
We do.
So Sun is the one who sort of coerces Moon to say, hey, let's get back to what we used to do, which is take care. So anyway, I think so the bully part of it is in there as well, but it's not too in your face.
Yeah. And you mentioned Sun and Moon and how these two come together. And I know that you have some great facts in the book too that you've included in the back matter. But could you tell us a little bit more, maybe like the ones that I like the one about how a night and day created, and also I think the one that talks about who creates light. And so,
sure. Yeah. Happy to share that. Sun is the only object in the solar system that creates light, and Moon reflects the light of Sun back on the planet Earth, which is surprising to a lot of young children because they think Moon has its own light and they think Sun has its light. But in truth, Sun is the only object that provides light in our solar system, which is a pretty amazing fact.
Awesome. Yeah. And what was something that surprised you or something that you learned along the way in making this book?
I was surprised how far away that the Sun is from the Earth. When I did some of this sort of fact finding, it was interesting to me even to learn that it's 150 kilometers, or really about 93 million miles away from us.
Yeah.
I don't know. Doesn't it seem much closer to you when you look at them?
It does.
It's so surprising. Yeah. It's pretty far away.
Yeah. Especially that you can feel its heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that fact. And I love seeing other children having read the book, and some of the reviews I get are just amazing to hear other families and how they really love to be able to teach their children about taking turns in such a simple way. So it's been sort of a multi-layer kind of fun thing to watch. But I get photos every once in a while of families reading this book with their children. And it's so heartwarming to me.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And talking about, like families reading or, like that book, and Pamela Courtney says, we love this book's back matter. I love the poetic techniques used in this fun read. And I always feel like Pamela has so much, like information on, like knowledge on books. So it's always appreciated.
Thank you, Pamela. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that, Pamela. Absolutely appreciate it. And then, I know that it's dedicated to your granddaughter. At what point did you decide that this book would be a dedication, or why did you decide to dedicate it to her?
She is my first granddaughter, and I was so excited when I found out my daughter was having a baby. I was like, yay.
Who's older, the book or your granddaughter?
I'm sorry?
Who's older, the book or your granddaughter?
Oh, let's see. That's a good question, actually. She is 2 years, let's see, July, August, September, 2 years, 3 months. It took And this book came out in November of 2020. So she's a little bit older.
Okay, yeah.
It took a while to write and then get it published.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole process that we could get into. But yeah, like I'll let you finish with why did you dedicate it to her? I know you started talking about it.
Oh, just because she is totally my inspiration. I was a special ed teacher for many, many moons. And then I did real estate for 40 years and decided I started this in Boston, starting to write and illustrate children's books. But I realized the illustration piece is really hard. And so is writing. So I decided to focus on one piece of it.
Yeah.
So for her, it was really, I realized what an impact literacy is for kids. And I'm really passionate about literacy for children. So I really, I guess, want to leave a mark for her to carry on that torch.
Yeah. And, you know, talking about the torch and the impact, you know, the importance of literacy with kids, I know that you're doing some things like with your book. There's some proceeds that go to certain organizations. What are you doing, or how does this book help, try and help with literacy and things like that?
So a portion of my proceeds are donated to Every Child a Reader, which is there's a couple of literacy foundations. Another one is the Monarch School for the Homeless here in San Diego, which I will be doing some tutoring with at some point, but I am really passionate about helping the homeless population. And then the Children's Literacy Foundation, CLIF, CLIF is another one. So there's some there's a really high need for these kinds of books to get out there, and donations. So yeah.
Right. No, absolutely. And thanks for all of that too. Like, because I know that there are many organizations that try to help students, and sometimes even just looking at it, it's like then there's need in so many areas, and whatever we can do to help plug that, like, is very important. One other thing I was thinking about as we are talking now too is that you are in special ed. Do you think enough is being done, or what can be done to, you know, like encourage or increase accessibility of books to special ed students?
That is the $1 million question. You know, I was really impressed when I moved here that they have these little libraries that are free little libraries all around the place.
Yeah.
I'd never seen that. They're just starting them on the East Coast, which is interesting. Maybe because our winters are so tough there that you really can't leave things out year round.
Right.
The rain and the snow and all that wonderful weather. But, you know, I would love to see more grants written for special ed kids to have more access to literacy. I think I shared a story with you that one of my students was a 7th grader and was a non-reader and literally sucked his thumb in my class and was just couldn't read. So it is very real. There really are adults that cannot read. There are children that have been pushed through the system that cannot read. And it's really important to get literacy out there for kids. So there are different programs. That child learned through the Orton Gillingham program. So I went ahead and learned that whole system to teach it to him. But not all kids learn that way. Everybody learns differently. And so it's figuring out what's the best way for that child to read. And reading to me is so basic. Without reading, there's just so many life survival skills that if you don't have them, it's going to be tough to survive.
Yeah, and it's so interdisciplinary, because if you can't read, then you're not going to comprehend or read and comprehend the math questions. You're not going to do the science questions, and everything else is just.
It's a real domino effect for sure.
Right, exactly.
Every dimension of your life. I mean, just even reading stop signs to reading, you know, all kinds of information that's out there in their world.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. How has your volunteering, you know, helping at schools, like you mentioned with that program, how has it been impacted with being in COVID times, you know?
Unfortunately, I haven't physically gotten in there yet. I was supposed to do an online program with Oasis. I may still be doing that. It's coming up, I guess. But even for the volunteers to get into the schools have really been very strict about who can come in and who cannot.
Right. Yeah.
Monarch is getting ready to start with in-person tutors because they really, really need the help. These kids are really, these are homeless children that are, living in vans or in parks or, on the street, basically. So they need as much help as we can give them. So I'm happy to help in some way. I'm waiting for the vaccination to come out for that younger group of kids in hopes that everybody can stay safe. So I'm also hoping they'll do some virtual stuff. So it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And then just, like on a different note too, have you mentioned that this is different from your other writing, and so just wondering, like, has the writing been all children's books, or is it varied?
It is children's picture books, but I'm working on 3 other manuscripts right now that are, I have lots of I have probably about 20 manuscripts out there, but I'm working on 3 of them more intensely. I'm going to be in a mentorship program. I just won. And this book just won an award with the Colorado.
Yeah, let's share some of those. I know that you mentioned that.
I was pretty excited about that. I just found that out literally last week.
Yeah. Let's see, this one.
That's a reader's favorite review, but the Colorado Literacy Independent Publishers Foundation is really a cool award to win.
Yeah.
I came in 3rd place. This one, yeah, CIPA.
Yeah.
It's a literacy award for kids, which is great. So the other books I'm working on right now, which has been fascinating for me, is nonfiction picture books. And I'm doing one that's Under a Rock in a River and What's Under a Rock in the Ocean and the tidal pools. Mm-hmm. But I also have fiction ones where there's Groundhog Day with Phil trying to find a shadow and things like that. So I work on a bunch of different things. I'm hoping to do one, and I would love if you have any mentor text on it. I'm looking to write one that is about whales. That's Mythbusters about whales.
Oh, yeah, no, those sound exciting. I know a few students that love reading about whales and just water creatures.
They're cool creatures for sure.
Yeah. And then, how has the journey been for you? You mentioned, how long it took this book, and also how hard it was to, illustrate. And so how long did it take you for this book to finally come out? And at what point did you think, I think it's ready for the world now?
This book took about 2 years between writing it, and then it's self-published, which is my first self-published book. My other books I'm submitting to publishers and agents, so I'm going to go traditional and try that route. Yeah. I'm just to try something different and see how that goes. But I really I enjoyed working with this book shepherd. It's called a book shepherd. I hired a company that's what they do. They have an editor, and she had the illustrator. This Gail was her illustrator, and she happened to be a great match for me. Sometimes it doesn't go that way. You have to find an illustrator that matches what you're looking for. But she happened to be someone that I was looking more for, like an Eric Carle look in this book. It didn't quite achieve that, but I love the watercolors. I think they're soft and beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, and when you do traditional, you don't get to pick your illustrator; they do. So it's a whole different ball of wax.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it took between editing and the illustrator takes about 6 months. It's a pretty cool process though, because you don't get to see anything until about 6 months. And she sent over sketches to get a sketch board it's called a storyboard, which I would have had something out to show you what it looks like. But that's what they do. They map it out on a storyboard for you, and you approve the sketches, and then you get a couple of drafts of color. And then they tie the story in with their sketches, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Was there anything that surprised you from that? Because this is coming from someone else's head and the interpretation of your writing. So were there any things that you were like,
you have to trust that process. It is a little daunting that they're going to do the right thing. And I just felt like she did do the right thing. I love that we put the dogs in there. I thought that was fun to be able to add Bonnie and Luna. Looking back on it, I think I would have even had her do more diverse populations in for the people going to work. She did.
Yeah.
I had to shake it up to some diversity, but I think it could have even had more diversity. But you learn as you go through this process.
Yeah.
I've thought about going back on this book and rewriting it as a solar eclipse. There's lots of ideas that even after you're done, you're never done with the book. You think the
Right.
story's done, but you think of all other angles that you could have told it in just for
Yeah.
other ideas that come later. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting process. It's a journey.
Yeah. And I know that too, there's, little ones that are watching. And so just wondered too about, are there any stories that come from your childhood, or did you feel at any point, because I know like these things that you're writing about have been there since you were a kid too, like the sun, the moon, and all these things. So are stories, have you been inspired from your childhood, or, at what point, like, because wondering as kids, as they're going through, I'm sure they're also, observing things, coming up with things, and just wondering too, like, how does your childhood tie into what you're doing now?
That's a great question. It definitely ties in because there's a journey for all of us. And I think there's a story in all of us. We all have a voice that we can write about. Don't anyone think they can't write a book, because anyone can write a book. It's a matter of whether you really want to write a book and really put your mind to it. But I had this real passion about being around water and the beach and sand and ocean and lakes. And so I think just the setting of this, having the sun and the moon and the beach all there with shorebirds. My other nonfictions, I grew up in New Jersey. And at the end of our street, we had a brook that, believe it or not, that was a day and age when kids went outside and come back at 5 o'clock. We were playing the whole time. We played kickball, we played basketball, we played all kinds of crazy games out in the street.
Yes.
But we would ice skate on this brook. I think about it now, around all the rocks in the brook. Well, in the months that it wasn't frozen, I would love turning over these rocks just to see what was in them. So that's where that story around, and that's true for the ocean too. So that's where the stories around what's under that rock comes from. So, and then I have sort of this sense of humor that I love to try and get into books too, but I admire a lot that do it so well. I think there's people that just are amazing with their humor. So I'm still learning. I'm in this mentorship program I'm starting with. Curtis Manley is going to be my mentor for 6 months, who is another amazing author. He's been published, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. His newest book out is called Tiny Creatures or something. I have it here somewhere in my room because I'm studying all his craft. But it is definitely a journey. This isn't like one and done. You learn as you go, and and there's always new things you learn. I definitely see a difference from where this book is and where I am now. There's a lot of growth that goes on, but it's fun. I love learning. I'm very learning based, and it's just fun to do.
Yeah, no, and I think you mentioned something very important there. Keep learning, and I think that's something that everybody needs a reminder of every now and then. Like you have to keep just stay curious, and I think I appreciate that. I've seen it even in my own, like whether it's teaching or even in life, just thinking like, oh, how can I do this better? How can I do this differently? And what else can I, I'm just keep doing. I was thinking too, like that you mentioned other books. How are there other manuscripts that have been done that you have not put out yet? Looking at it, that you say there are almost 20.
Great question. These nonfiction ones I'm working on right now are still going through the critique process, which is a very laborious process. I have several critique groups. I just met with one last night, and we just went through this ocean story for the first draft. And so it's around the ecosystem and the food chain and the food web and who eats who. But it's done in sort of this lyrical, sort of poetic way. But I have a long way to go with it because it's bi-layered. So the primary layer is the story, and then the second layer, which is a different format, is some of the facts. Well, those facts are too long. I need to shorten them tremendously.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to it. So I would say probably look for another book maybe in 2023 or 4.
Yeah. Wow. No,
It takes a while. It takes
yeah.
a while. Yeah.
No, that's an interesting point too, to think of that long view, like how, you can do something like starts now, and it's a process. It's a long process. It's always, because we see books and sometimes, you may forget about the work that goes into them, right?
Yeah, no, it's a lot. You really have to love what you're doing. I
Mhm.
really do love it. It's a lot of interesting, and a lot, like you said, I think my biggest key word is curiosity. I'm
Uh-huh.
I'm just a curious person, and I love to investigate
Yeah.
what's that about.
No,
Uh,
just even just from what we've talked about, and that phenomenon I was asking about too, it's just like, oh yeah, there's a
it's
lot. Yeah. And I was thinking too, like, does having facts at the end of your book allow you to add more information that,
it does.
yeah.
It's a way for the writer to get more information to a reader, especially during these times. There's a lot of kids being homeschooled right now. The
Mm-hmm.
parents are at such a loss. I've talked to so many parents and teachers during this time, and really, I applaud all of you. It's not an easy situation for anyone. I think it's been very challenging. So I try to, for especially when you're self-publishing, to really let that real estate really make it a good investment. So you
Yeah.
want it to be a little bit about learning and hopefully some fun in it too.
Yeah, no, totally. And there's Ingrid who's joining us today from Argentina, and just because I know that there's a Spanish version too, are you going to have it in different languages, or is it just Spanish and English for now? And why Spanish?
Great question. My granddaughter is in a Spanish immersion daycare.
Mm,
My son-in-law, her daddy, is Hispanic.
mm,
And so it was important to them, my daughter and her husband, that Kira learn Spanish as well as English. And I think it's great. So she is at that point now where she's talking and she says a lot. I mean, she's got sentence and everything, but sometimes I don't know if it's in English or Spanish. I was like, what was she saying? We're on FaceTime. What was that word? Well, she's got agua down and other stuff like that. But
yeah,
sometimes she rattles off a whole sentence. I'm like, wait, was that in English or Spanish?
that's Spanish. Yeah, right,
But
right.
for now, it's going to be just English and Spanish. Certainly, if it
Mm.
became a bestseller forevermore, I would be happy to have it translated in 15 different languages.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And how did the translation process work? Did you do that, or did somebody else come in for it?
A great question. My son-in-law, I had him translate it, and then my editor had a person proof it that is a professional translator,
Yeah.
and yeah, and that's how we
Oh,
arrived to it. So,
yeah.
yeah.
That's no, that's some teamwork right there.
There sure is, and it's good to use. I'm very resourceful. It's good to use your resources, right? Yeah. So, yeah. And it turned out it was pretty well done. She just had
Yeah.
to make sure it was accurate.
Right, right. No, that's
But there's different
amazing.
dialects, I guess, in different regions, and so it's
Yeah.
interesting.
So is your son-in-law now thinking this could be a gig translating?
No, no, I don't think he is. But he'll probably be asked again for another book. Yeah.
Right.
The poor guy, it got edited a few times, so I have to go back to him and say, sorry, can you do this one more time? Because we
Oh yeah.
this and added this and blah, blah, blah.
And and that's an interesting process too. How are you with that? I mean, you said you have several critiquing groups. So it takes, I've mentioned this even when I've talked to other people, like I feel like it takes a set, and like you have to have a thick skin when feedback comes back. Like how, because how are you with that? And then how was it, like you're saying, where maybe you had to take it back to your son-in-law and be like, hey.
Can you fix this again? I think it's all about how you present your critique to your critique partner. It's no
Mm-hmm.
different than being the teacher or the mother or the father, and how you perhaps are not happy about something, or you want to share that this isn't working.
Yeah.
So the method we're supposed to be using is called the sandwich method, which is you compliment, you critique something that could be better, and then you compliment again. So it's sort of, it's, you let them know this is working and this isn't working. And it's funny because we were just talking about this last night, and one of them was saying that she does take it really personally, but she said, are we too tough on you? Oh, no. I she realizes she has to accept this. But she was saying that she was in a class where there's apparently another new method for critiquing. I never heard of it. It's called critical thinking of something. I don't remember exactly how she worded it, but it was it's another new way of and it's basically asking more questions. It's asking more questions of the writer rather than critiquing it and saying, I'm curious about why you did this, or what does this mean, or which we do some of anyway, but this is getting a little more deep into it. For me, I'd rather you just tell me it like it is. I'd rather just know what needs to go and what can stay. And, and so as a writer, you make the decision of deciding, do I want to keep that idea, or do I want to dismiss what they had to say?
Yeah.
Because you can get pretty overloaded with a lot of different critiques.
No, you did mention there a few things, and I was just thinking, one, my sister, Sally, if you're watching, she knows, like, when we were kids at one point, I think it was talking through Bible study and stuff, and she gave me this example, and I think, I can't remember if it was from the book, but I heard it from her first. And she was saying, like, you can toss a ball or you can throw it at somebody. And so, talking about that, how you give something. And so totally made sense. And I think she actually even, actually threw a ball at me and tossed it to just show that difference. And so, yeah, I totally see that. And I feel like, well, in education too, there's always, evaluations and so on, and people into your classroom for a few minutes, and it's like you're going to be, and
meeting with parents, right? You have to decide how you're going to explain to a parent, especially as a special educator. That was really challenging.
Yeah, I would imagine.
To run my meetings and explain why that child was not processing like they should be or could be, or what could we do to support them, and what could they be supported at home doing? So there's lots of moving parts in this process. You're doing it every day without even realizing you're doing it every day.
Yeah. No, it's and it takes patience too, like with people giving you the advice, but also like being able to sift through that, and like you're saying, what do I want to keep? Is there any like message that you have out there for the little ones before we go, and anybody else that is joining in, because I know you've been through the writing process, you're still going through it, so do you have anything for those like writers, would be writers out there, people that are watching, and then also the little ones, like what messages do you have for them?
So the message I write in my book when I sign it is to keep sharing your kindness with everyone. And that really is my message, because everybody needs it. Everyone needs your kindness. People get very impatient with one another. Sometimes you're in a line and you're waiting, and it can be frustrating to wait. But I think, or maybe somebody just needs an extra hug that day. Maybe they're just having not a great day. Just letting them know it's okay. But before you get mad, or you're about to flip your tongue at someone, or you want to go push somebody, just keep your hands to yourself and just kind of think about it, count to 10 and say, I didn't mean that. Hello from Massachusetts, Marietta. All right. I was a Boston girl.
And
that's for the adults, I would tell you, write that book. Everybody has a story, and everyone has a great story to tell. And if there's anything I've learned in this business, even though there's been how many versions of food chain books, because I have a pile of them sitting here, I'm always looking at books and reading mentor texts.
Mm.
You still have your own story to write in your own voice. It's your own unique voice.
Voice, right,
You don't
right.
give up on the process. It's a long process, but it can be very rewarding. So
Yeah. Is
I think
this the end of is this the end of taking turns, or will there be a taking turns 2.0?
good question. You know, I actually had a sequel for this book, and then I went off to do these other books. So I'll probably go back and revisit that at some point
Yeah.
because I'm working on this other series. But I think I have so many books to write. I hope I live to 101 to get them all done.
Yeah, no, that's the beauty with writing. I was looking at, like when, like certain books have been written at what point in people's lives, and you see like it's just all over the place, which is really beautiful to see too. Like it's some people take the time, and like there's books like this. I'm sure are there others that you started before taking turns, but are still in the book?
Oh, yes, many others, many others. I had a lot of fiction ones before that.
Yeah.
Goofy ones. I was just going through the list and went, oh yeah, I forgot about that one. I forgot about that one. I did write one that I call it my quiet book. It was called In the Silence. And it was during the pandemic when literally not a car or a bus or anything was moving. It was the strangest. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. It was such a strange feeling.
Yeah.
But it helps you to notice all these things when it's really quiet.
Mm.
Yeah. So I'll go back on that story. I'll share it with you sometime. You can tell me what you think of it. But I have some other ones that are really goofy about magic markers and and how they share their magic and just goofy stuff. But
yeah, that's awesome. Well, Pamela Courtney here mentions being excited about your nonfiction title. So
good. I'm wondering how many parents out there are actually excuse me, purchasing nonfiction, because nonfiction is becoming a big rage right now in children's picture books.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't before. It was the very boring, nonfictions. Oh, if you remember, even as a kid, I'm sure, Mr. LaMotta, I know for myself, I probably fell asleep over those books. Right? They were just factual information that very dry. And now they've taken on a whole new, it's just like a whole new genre, really. Melissa Stewart is the pioneer right now, I would say. There's a bunch of them. Candace Fleming. I totally admire these people. But Melissa Stewart has 2 books she just put out for anyone interested in writing or learning more about nonfiction and children's books. It's called 5 Types of Nonfiction. And there's browsable, there's a whole bunch, but it's a very cool. I've taken a number of her classes, and she has a second. The first book I have is a deep dive into it, and then the other one is the 5 types. But she's done a lot. She's probably written 40 or 50 books. I'm so amazed at these authors that are so prolific and can write 3 books a year and get them all out there.
And Pamela Courtney mentions Kate Messner.
Kate Messner's another one, History Smashers. I love that she did that whole thing on the Plymouth Rock, and she's got a whole bunch of science ones too. I love her Over and Under the Snow.
The Over and Under series.
And Over and Under the Pond. She's done a lot of really good ones too. She's out there. So those are some of the leaders, I think, out there doing really good stuff for kids. And I wonder, Mr. LaMotta, as a teacher, are you using any of those books in your classroom with your fourth graders?
Absolutely.
Well, what are some of your faves?
The Over and Under series, definitely. And then also, although it's kind of creative, it's creative nonfiction, or like,
I love that.
The One Crazy Summer.
I don't know that one.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's by what's her name? I know the last name is Garcia, but it's about these girls that come to Oakland to be with their mom and meeting their mom for pretty much the first time as they're older. It's a beautiful story. And it talks about them experiencing Black Panther camp, and so it's really cool. Like the the way it unfolds. And then being in Oakland, I think kids love it that way. Like, oh, these are places that we know. And so, yeah. And then Dave Eggers. Dave Eggers, he has some good ones as well that just, talk about real life in such, with great humor. And so I really appreciate those. Yeah. Wow.
Who else does a nice job, I think, of heart and humor is Matt De La Pena and Matt Barnett.
Yes. Oh, Matt Barnett.
I love Max. Like, there's an example of someone with amazing humor.
Yes. No.
Like, who would have thought of that one about digging the hole?
Yes. No, exactly. No, that
it's hysterical. Or square, circle. I mean, he's hysterical.
Yeah. No, I was saying that with the kids there at the time we were reading, Sam and Dave Dig a Hole.
Yeah.
One of the kids was just like, my brain is breaking right now. Like, yes, I feel you. But no, absolutely.
I love Last Stop on Market Street with I actually got to hear him talk, Matt. He's he doesn't live far from me. He's in San Diego. He's a very touchy-feely, warm.
He's now in Oakland.
Oh, is he in Oakland?
Oakland, yeah.
When did he move to Oakland?
I'm not sure, but for the time I've known him, he's been here.
Oh, no kidding. I thought.
Yeah. No, so that's
interesting. Anyway, I think he's such a cool guy. He's just a great guy. As a human being, I just think he's just a great guy.
Yeah, he does a reading club on his Instagram.
Does he? I have not.
Yeah, you should.
So many things I'm involved in. Yeah.
It's a good one.
I could be up all night like you.
It is a funny one, and then there's a series that he's done. I feel like now it's becoming the Mark Barnett show, but he has a series that he does with Sean Harris too, about the cat on the moon or something. I'm blanking on the name.
Okay. I'll have to look. I'll go look at his. I was on it at one point, and then I have a whole. So I literally So I journal every day, which is really important to do.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
I love this cover. Isn't that awesome?
It is, yes.
I'll have to find another one just like it. But I feel like I should start getting replaceable things. But I have a whole file of. This is my file of all the books I still need to review. There's a whole list in here of and I can't read them enough. So and then getting them at the library is another whole challenge. So, but I love reading and I love seeing what other authors do with books. There's a lot of really good books coming out right now. I don't know if you're.
They're amazing. And Javaka Steptoe is another one that I just love. He's
not heard of that one.
Artwork. Yeah, he does amazing books. And there's so many great books out. And and then
is there a series your fourth graders tend to migrate toward that they enjoy?
Right now, I feel like Dogman is definitely.
Oh yes, Dogman is always number one or two. It's right up there with the Hungry Caterpillar.
I'm trying to introduce them to other. There's Annika Ross Reese. She does like the one she has now. Oh, she does the Anna Banana series, but she also has one that is called Hide and Go Seek, and it's a series kind of perfect for around this year because it's like scary stories kind of. So she's another one. I'm trying to introduce other things, but they have a lot that they're reading through, and I'm new to fourth grade, so I'm also still picking up.
Something I do want to sort of alert you to that is fairly new in the marketplace is that, and I would definitely look for them. They have picture books now for that age group, which they didn't before. They're sort of done in a graphic novel-y kind of way. It might be with speech bubbles and that kind of thing to make it more fun for that age group. But there are some really cool nonfiction and fiction picture books for that, 8 to 12-year-old group. which people don't think of. They think that's a baby kind of book, but it's not. There's really fun information. It engages readers. If you have those challenge readers, it engages them in a book that they ordinarily, maybe they're not ready for Dogman series. Maybe
right. And also just because with the reading, like I try to take them through different things, just be like, this is reading can just be fun. Like there are times we're reading to learn something, and other times we're just reading to just have fun, just get lost.
Go and enjoy it.
Yeah, and so like even when we read, like even though this is the 4th grade group that I was reading Sam and Dave Dig a Hole with, and they were all excited and engaged, and like it gave us a lot to talk about. So yeah, like you're very right on that too. Like there's so much, and some of them where initially I think like, oh, this is maybe too young, but then you read it and you find that there's so many talking points, so many questions that come up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And 4th grade is really the age, if I recall, when I was teaching, that's when they're reading to learn versus learning to read.
Yes.
So if they're not coming into 4th grade as a strong reader, it can be really challenging, which is why I think this idea of this, picture book for that age group is just there. I think there's some really good informational books that are fun.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's so many. And as you're talking too, there's some that are sitting here in front of me, and I'm looking at this Adam Rex here with the Y. Kate Messner's, what's this one here, is How to Read a Story. And so there's just so many ones that just all, like even families at home can incorporate into children's learning, say, this is how you could do this, and this is how you could use, and in a fun way too.
And so do you have a budget where you can purchase books for your classroom or the library, school library, or how do you get your hands on these books?
So we have a school library, of course, like with Title I, so you cannot, you can only have so much, but then also there's a free book giveaway. It's called the East Bay Children's Book Project, and you can go in and collect up to 20 books every Tuesday.
What is it called? I never heard of it.
The East Bay Children's Book Project.
Oh, cool.
And so you can go there and pick up books. And the only thing is like you have to sort them when you get them and figure out levels and stuff if you're doing that. But yeah, so there are other resources. And then I've been fortunate, honestly, to be introduced, like say Chronicle Books, I've sent a bunch of books to be introduced to certain authors and then see what they're doing and then diving deeper into that. So most of it too, like I love books, so I'll get a series. There's some that I'll put in the special teacher pile. So if you're getting from that collection, please make sure it comes back. But kids have been great with it. They'll come get a book, they'll read, and then they know where to put it back. Yeah, so that way we have it for the next year too, and hopefully they are introduced to it and can run with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of really, really, even MG and YA books that are coming out that are just amazing. So
absolutely. I mean, who's the one that writes Furia? Shamile Mendes. Yes, she has a beautiful, like good books.
It's amazing to me how many of these books they write. I'm like, what? How do they do it? It's amazing. Just writing these picture books is so hard. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, before we go, like I just feel like this is such a great conversation. We could go on forever. I'll ask 2 questions. One is, if you were to work with an author or illustrator of your choice, if you just walk up and they're like, okay, here, you've won to pick anybody, who would you work with? Who would it be? And then what was my other question going to be? Oh, what are you reading now as an adult, like not away from children's books?
So I would love to hang out with Christian Robinson. He's one of my favorite author illustrators. I just think he's amazing. And what am I reading now? I'm actually going to be in a reading book club that's about poetry. I have no idea what this book is about. I might hate it. It could be super boring, but I'm determined to learn more about poetry because I write lyrically.
Yeah, no, I've been learning about poetry working because we're in the poetry unit right now with my students.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's great, yeah.
This is supposed to be a really good book, and there's another really good book that was also nuts and bolts of picture books or something like that. So there's many different groups I'm members of because I'm this constant learning machine.
Yeah.
So it's fun to engage. But I also have a girls' book club that I'm a member of. That right now I'm reading The Vanishing Half. It's about a set of twins and the separate lives they end up living, and so I always get a little of that too.
Yeah. Oh.
And then I'm just always reading thousands of picture books here too. The librarians are kind of sick of me because I'm in there every day. Do you have this book? Do you order this book?
Yeah, right. Oh, well, Marianne, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
I enjoyed it, absolutely. And it's just it's been great having a guest again here on Storytime, because since I moved down to the 7 a.m., it's been a little hectic, so I've not and also just asking people to be here at 7 is it's a challenge, but I appreciate you being here and taking the time to read to us. And as you can see behind Marianne there too, taking turns, and it's also in Spanish, and it is illustrated by GAIL M. Nelson. Yes, with a few awards to it. There should be more badges now. That will be
I've got to get on that. Thank you so much. I so appreciate it. You have a fabulous day, and make sure you fill your cup up for yourself. Thank you.
No, I will. I will stop for some good coffee. I already prepped my class for today, so it's just strolling in today. So
that's awesome.
Great start, and great start too. Like I always say, from this community, I get so much energy, and it just brightens my day as I go on. It's just I appreciate that. So yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you and all that you do for children. You're an amazing human being. Keep doing what you're doing. God bless. And if you're in my area, please come visit.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I've never been to San Diego before, so hopefully sometime.
Well, hopefully we'll get you in Coronado, which would be great.
Yeah.
All right. You take care.
Thank you. Yes. No, thank you. And before you go to everybody that is joining in today, we were here with Marianne BLACKSTONE TABNER, author of this amazing book, Taking Turns, and many others that we will be seeing hopefully soon. And of course, too, a former educator, but you never stop being an educator, do you?
No, you don't. Yes, this is so true. All right. Well, enjoy your day. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Marianne. And everybody else that was joining us today on Storytime. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I encourage you to continue reading today. Find that book that you can read, whether it's you as an adult on your own or with your little ones. This has been Storytime for today. Lots of great information coming in, and of course, a great conversation there with Marianne, and of course, a wonderful reading as well. Thank you so much for being here today. Please do join me tomorrow when I'm back with another one, and this one is called Bacchus, the Most Fun. Yes, they're back. Book 3 is out, and we'll be reading part of that tomorrow. So please do join me and enjoy that one with me. But for today, like Marianne was saying, I hope that you have a wonderful day. I hope you continue, with a great stride into this beautiful day that we have. And of course, life does throw us curveballs every now and then. I hope that you're navigating them well. Thinking of you, sending you love and care. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. Please have yourselves a wonderful day, and remember to join in Storytime. And if you want more Storytime, please do join in at 11. This same recording will be there, and you can listen to the story. Find the books where we find books, local libraries, those schools, ask for them so you can enjoy them some more. Thank you for being here, and I hope that you have a beautiful, beautiful day indeed. Much love from me. Big, big hugs to each and every one of you. Thank you for joining us from wherever you are in the world today. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
You only lonely, won't you start all the reading, Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't live lonely, won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to be with. Brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't live lonely, won't you start all the reading. We just can't wait to be here